Breaking news just coming in. Photographs of brave Indian Army soldiers in Galwan on New Year. These images smash China's Galwan propaganda. India shows off Galwan control. This is the latest that is coming in at the moment. After that propaganda video was making rounds, India has busted China's Galwan lie. The photograph of brave Indian Army soldiers in Galwan on New Year flashing on your screens right now. These images are clinching images after the lie that was propagated by China. These images that are clinching are showing you and smashing China's Galwan propaganda. India is showing off Galwan control in the latest image that has come out, which is flashing across your screens at the moment. We're juxtaposing these visuals against the visuals that came out as China's propaganda earlier. If you take a look at the visual on the left side of your screen, you can see that that is China's propaganda, and that is juxtaposed against the reality and the truth of our forces at Galwan right there on your screen. Shiv Arur now joins us live for the very latest. Shiv, the new visuals that have come in really go on to bust China's lies. If you could explain both the visuals to us.
Now, that we did even before the Indian picture actually came up. Remember when India Today reported yesterday on the Chinese video that had come out, it was already laughably clear how far away from the actual clash site that video had been filmed in. So the world completely knows what Chinese propaganda is all about. To be very realistic, this picture, let's face it, has come out as a kind of reaction to what China did. It's not something that the Indian side had actually put out. It's reactive information warfare is what we should call it. But let's not take away from the fact that this is an image of Indian soldiers in the Galwan Valley. A lot of politics had been played over the unfurling of the Chinese flag, and there you see the beautiful Tiranga right there. Except that Indian soldiers always unfurl the Tiranga on New Year, on Independence Day. So it's not something new. It's not something that they've decided to do because the Chinese had unfurled their own flag. This is very much part of the year-end ritual by Indian troops in the border areas. This kind of thing and, sort of camaraderie and troop building exercises that happens in these areas. This is a very, very common sight. But the fact that it has been publicized at this point of time, we have to be honest with ourselves. It is a reaction to the Chinese propaganda that had come out a couple of days ago following New Year. But it does not take away from the fact that Indian soldiers are affirming their presence in the Galwan Valley. Now, where precisely this image has been taken is, where the Indian troop positions are. Unlike China, India does not, claim to be on the Chinese side, even though the actual clash that took place in June 2020 was, in fact, across the LAC on the Chinese side, where the Chinese were damaged quite considerably despite their efforts to hide what happened. But this kind of, subtle interplay and India's response to aggressive Chinese propaganda is actually a pretty interesting thing to see, because the past few times when China has put out propaganda videos, Chaiti, India hasn't really responded. They had put out videos of Indian captives, injured Indian soldiers in the past, but there had been no Indian response. But this time it appears that India has been goaded into actually responding with its own element of information warfare. And that's what you're actually seeing right now. Interesting to also note, Chaiti, that India hasn't responded with a video. They haven't put out a video. They've just put out these very telling, bright, beautiful images of Indian troops with their weapons at their post with the Indian flag in the Galwan Valley. And I don't think there could be a better message to China than this one.
And it also goes on to show how the video was designated. That was the one that Chinese came out with was designated to taunt India, and it definitely had no connection with reality, because the reality is on your screen. As Shiv just mentioned, that this is a reactive image that India has put out to bust China's propaganda. Shiv, so did the Chinese then put out a doctored video within the Chinese territory calling it, them in Galwan?
That's a good question, Chaiti. No, the video didn't appear to be doctored by itself, but there was a lot of innuendo in it because, the location was not clear. And, the way the angles of the camera moved, it appeared to suggest, it wanted to suggest that they were in the area. This was being filmed in the area where the fighting actually took place. But when we did our own fact check here on India Today yesterday, Jayati, as you well know, the suggestions being made by China in that propaganda video were completely busted. It was laughable and very much in keeping with the quality of made in China. Third rate, not very durable, easy to see through, and doesn't last very long. So that's what that's what that video was really all about. India, on the other hand, has put out a pair of perfectly still images. And like I said, it's not that China's lies have been busted because India has been putting out these images. India has put out these images only now, a few minutes ago, as always, first on India Today. But it was the Chinese lies were busted well before that. Yesterday, we'd busted their lies sometime in the afternoon because we'd conducted our own geotagging. India Today's Ankit Kumar had conducted an OSINT investigation to nail down where precisely the Chinese video had been filmed. And it was found to have been filmed more than a kilometer on the Chinese side, Chinese-controlled territory, very close to their own base camp. So troops unfurl their own flags on their own side. What's the big deal? There's nothing to trumpet about in that case. But China wanted to project it as some big achievement. So it didn't work. It fell really flat, like most Chinese things these days, apart from the COVID pandemic. And therefore, I think India has just chosen to subtly react to it by putting out these images of its own. And I would say, bravo, bring it on. Because as far as information warfare is concerned, I'm afraid, Jayati, the Chinese are way ahead of us.
So that's exactly the point. So there were many who started believing the video that was put out by China as well. What would you like to tell them today with their propaganda machine working overtime? As you said, the information warfare is concerned, they really work overtime on that front.
Well, the only thing I would say, and I say this both as a journalist and as a citizen, Chaiti, is that political parties, political individuals, opposition leaders who've basically fired off the shoulders of Chinese propaganda should be completely ashamed of themselves. Asking questions of the government, which is what we do. And if you look at all of our reporting on Ladakh since last year, we've been putting the pressure on the government and telling the reality of how bad the situation as far as China is concerned, unrelentingly. But that doesn't mean you need to embrace and adopt Chinese propaganda to make a political point in your own country. Otherwise, you're basically becoming a stooge and an amplifier of Chinese propaganda. And that's what many political parties have actually been doing since January the 3rd, when this Chinese video actually came out. Nobody says that questions should not be asked. Watch India Today's coverage to know what the reality of the Chinese situation in Ladakh actually is. They've come in huge numbers. They've made permanent settlements in those areas. It is a strategic threat to India. It is a strategic threat to India's territory. There have been intrusions. They have come onto our territory. India has achieved, a situation where we've chased them back in some areas. But the situation is far from normal. In fact, it is on a hair trigger. It could explode into conflict at any point of time. That's how bad the situation is. But at no point of time has India Today ever endorsed firing off the shoulders of Chinese propaganda. And that's what political parties have done. They've crossed a very, very major line as far as reporting conflict is concerned. And this was just to make a political point. So they should be ashamed of themselves. I have no qualms in saying that they should be ashamed of themselves on that fact.
Yes, and in moments from now, we'll be joined by defense experts to give us a first-up reaction on the story that we're breaking right now on India Today. And we will also be playing out for you the fact-check video done by our India Today fact-check team that shows how China has been caught red-handed propagating lies to the world once again, and India Today exposing the truth of China's flag unfurling propaganda video as well. And Shiv, these are first-up images exclusive to India Today at the moment.
Absolutely. As always, first on India Today, Chaiti. And, I'd like to also decode a bit of the image, if I could, for our viewers. The image is a still image, first of all. It's not a video. So that is something that's been deliberately done. You can't see very much except for a rock face. You can see, a Tiranga that's been hoisted. You can also see a Tiranga that's being held by some of those troops there. All of them are sitting there. Those are some of the new infantry weapons that they're holding. Those are the SIG 716 American assault rifles that had begun to arrive after the pandemic began. So these are frontline troops who've been given some of the best personal weapons, Chaiti, obviously for good reason, because this is a place where things are already in an operational atmosphere. You can see a bunker there with sandbags, which is a place where a light machine gunner or an observation post would be situated. So this is a frontline area. This is this is suggesting that this is an absolute frontline area on the line of actual control. In fact, far closer to the point of where the fighting actually took place than what the Chinese were trying to suggest with their video yesterday. So without getting into too many specifics, because because this is still a developing story, I would say that there are many things in these images that are going to taunt the Chinese, without having it to be a video, or without having to, have a woman singing and troops chanting military anthems. Two still images probably have greater jeering and taunting value than the video that the Chinese put out yesterday.
Absolutely. Shiv, continue to stay with us. Shiv Arur bringing us that breaking story. It's an exclusive image that you're seeing first on India Today at the moment, and India busting China's line. As Shiv mentioned, this is a picture that has been put out as a reaction to the propaganda video that came out from the Chinese side. Manjeet Negi is joining us for the latest on. All right. Manjeet is not with us. We'll re-establish that connection to Manjeet in just about a bit. We're also going to be getting some defense experts to give their first up reaction on this story. China has definitely been caught red-handed, propagating lies to the world once again. India Today has exposed the truth of China's flag unfurling propaganda video. Opposed to China's claims, the video was shot well within the Chinese territory and not in Galwan Valley or anywhere near the June 2020 clash point.
China stands exposed. Beijing's lies busted. The truth of China's propaganda video showing the PLA unfurling its national flag in Galwan Valley is out. The video, designed to taunt India, has no connection with reality. It is a doctored video shot well within the Chinese territory. The analysis of PLA's amplified video by Chinese media shows that the bridge visible in it is nowhere close to the bend of the river where Indian and Chinese soldiers had clashed in June 2020. "18 months after the clashes, Beijing lied again, trying to mislead the world. It claimed that the PLA unfurled China's national flag in Galwan Valley on the New Year Day of 2022.
Such actions, they are building a legal justification to take over these areas through force. At the same time, they aim to put psychological pressure on India, as also convince the world body that their action is justified should they actually go to war with India over this issue. Now, whether war takes place or not, China will continue to put up these claims, and India needs to be prepared militarily, politically, and diplomatically to confront the Chinese challenge.
This is not the first time when China has tried to propagate lies. It is only a part of a stream of images selectively leaked by China since the June 2020 face-off to picture themselves as the dominant force.
Are busy provocating India. Their talks have met almost a dead end. The Chinese are not at all keen to settle the boundary dispute. The Chinese have all along been creating tensions along the LAC.
The Chinese mind games are not new. Their propaganda machine works overtime on the internet to spread lies. This time too, they have been caught red-handed. With Ankit Kumar in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
And that's a fact-check story that you just saw on your screens right now, India Today's fact-check team is bringing you the truth and separating it from propaganda on your screens. My colleague Shivarur, who's broken the story, is also with us at the moment. Shiv, I'm throwing straight across to you. I believe we've got some defense experts joining us with their first-up reaction.
Thanks very much, Chethi. Yes, absolutely. I mean, this is a very interesting day in the India-China standoff because just days after the Chinese government had put out some very belligerent propaganda from the Galwan Valley, which, as you know, is a place where they had suffered at least as much damage as the Indian side on Jan 16th, 2020, during that horrible clash in which India had lost 20 people. The Chinese are said to have lost at least that same number, even though they've tried to hide that from their domestic audiences. This is a place where China has been unleashing constant propaganda, against India. In fact, we have Lieutenant General B.S. Jaswal, former Northern Commander of the Indian Army, joining us live. General Jaswal, good to always have you on these big breaking stories, sir, to get your wisdom and perspective on this. General Jaswal, this pair of Indian pictures that have come out of Indian troops with the Tiranga in the Galwan Valley, is great to see, but it is a little reactive, is it not, sir? Because it comes a couple of days after the Chinese, sought to project that they were unfurling their own Chinese flag in the Galwan Valley. What does this look like to you, sir?
Shiv, thanks for getting me, and wish you a happy New Year.
And to you, sir.
I would like to highlight 2-3 issues. Firstly, China is famous for psychological warfare. I have seen this territory very well. How does anyone know that where Chinese have shot that video, that is of Galwan? I can't make out. I see the photographs, I just can't make out. I've gone over this area. I've known this area. So this is one thing, that they create a scenario to create a perception in another country, that is us. They believe in that philosophy that if you want to subdue the enemy, you make it fight against its own internal infirmities. Now, the internal infirmities which is existing in the country today is, well, a whole lot of political parties, they get fodder to criticize the government. This is an issue. I think the social media should also control this. Army is the best tool to give you confirmation. They are on ground. But the media is not on ground. We have done it, where these boys are unfurling our national flag. I feel proud about it. I think they are the best people to say because they are on ground. Rest is all propaganda, and I don't think we should fan it on the social media very much. Because that's exactly what China wants. This is exactly. They have faked the whole video. There is some other area, no one can recognize it. I can't recognize it. I've served there extensively. But I can't recognize that place. Is it Galwan? Is it some other place? No. So I think we should not get overawed by this kind of psychological infusions by them. We should trust our army. They are there. And their stance should be taken as gospel.
Absolutely. And I also want to ask you, General, you're absolutely right, because India Today had actually busted the Chinese propaganda yesterday because they were suggesting that this video that they had put out unfurling the Tiananmen Square flag was at the Galwan Valley clash point itself. What our fact check had found, in fact, General, was that this was far away from the clash point and well within the Chinese side of the line of actual control. By putting out this image, we always trust our troops. Here on India Today, we ask the hard questions, but we are always shoulder to shoulder with our troops in these operational areas, and we will always show the truth. My question to you, General Jaswal, is by putting out these two images today, of Indian troops with the Tiranga in the Galwan Valley, what is the message that we are sending out? Because there is a sense that China has a very well-oiled propaganda machine, and that specifically on the Galwan issue, India has been silent. Many people in public ask, why are we not putting out our own images? Why is there no information warfare on the Indian side? Are these images the beginning of an Indian reaction, sir, in your view?
I don't think we have to react in this manner. What we have done is we have staked our claim because there was a situation which was created. We are holding our territory. We know that our troops are there. The army knows best. There has been no such intrusion or transgression by the Chinese. So I don't think we should get bogged down with a counter-propaganda against Chinese. After all, the propaganda is for what from our side? It would be basically to stake our territory, that we stake claim to our territory. This is basically to convince the population of India a mere statement from the army should be enough. That is gospel. They should say we are there and this is false. That's all. And I think the Indian population should accept the statement of the army because the army doesn't lie. So that's what it is. I don't think we should get into the slogging match of propaganda, this versus that. So I think it's an exercise in futility, but it's a very good thing. We've shown our flag over there. I'm proud of it. And we have staked our claim we are there. But we should not get bogged down in fanning it further, because all kinds of propaganda China will resort to. And we should not react. Let them keep trying whatever they want to. The Indian population should be convinced our army is doing its job. They are there. They are holding on to the territory. And they are doing what they have been mandated to. That should be the confidence of the population. They should not get marred by these kind of propaganda
I think it's
videos
very
being
wise,
put across.
very wise and very persuasive words from a general who has commanded formations, headed India's northern command, which governs the entire Galwan area and all of the areas in Jammu and Kashmir. He knows what he's talking about. He says it's great to see Indian troops in the Galwan Valley, but we don't need to react to Chinese propaganda. Let us not feel pressured to react to everything that the Chinese put out because they want to get into a kind of claim versus counterclaim debate. And India doesn't need to do that because China is a dictatorship. They are opaque as far as information is concerned. India is a democracy and we trust our troops. China is a country that hides the deaths of its troops in Galwan. Let that never, ever be forgotten. We haven't even heard from the families of the dead soldiers of Galwan from China. That's the kind of control that China exercises over its populations. Thank you very much, General Jaswal. Chaiti, I'm handing it back to you. Great to see these images and our best wishes from India today for the new year to all of our troops in Galwan Valley.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks, Shiv, for that big breaking mega exclusive that we're bringing on your screens at the moment. And you saw that first up reaction also coming in on this big exclusive story that we're getting to you on your screens right now. With that, I'm slipping into a very short commercial break. We've got lots more coming up on the other side. Stay with us on India Today.